6 o'clock on June 2nd, 2022. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, audio disclosure. Do we have anybody here recording this evening other than the town of Winchendon? Yes. Seeing no one, we're ready to go to public comment. Do we have any public comment this evening? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to number 5. Reorganization of the committee.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Vine.
in light of the fact that we're currently down 2 committee members, and we knew we were going to be down at least one, I'd move that we table this until our meeting on the 16th with the stipulation, and we will to be communicated to all members, that we go ahead with the reorganization on the 16th as long as there is a quorum to proceed. We can't keep putting this off because technically we're in violation of the town charter. So I'm willing to make a motion to table it for this evening with the vote to be taken on the 16th as long as a quorum is present.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Open for discussion. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, then we'll take a vote. Ryan?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, and the motion carries. So it is tabled until June
June 16th.
16th. And that's our final answer, right? We're gonna
Our drop
make it work on the 16th.
Our drop dead date.
Now, we're in for a treat. We have Maria here tonight with the student representative update after her busy class day today,
Yes, yes.
where she received a number of scholarships.
Yes, I did.
So happy for her. Go ahead,
Thank you
Maria.
so much. So, Mr. Chair, good evening. District students participated in Special Olympics at Alumni Field on Friday, May 20th. Over 30 athletes from all schools played bocce, frisbee golf, volleyball, water balloons, and other games. Unified Partner students work with the athletes at each station, and I heard it was overall a great day. Middle and high school music students put on a concert last Wednesday, May 25th. Mr. Grasset's sports management class presented to the Patriots marketing department at Gillette Stadium on Thursday, May 26th. As part of the Hall of Fame education program, high school students had to choose a marketing activity from a menu of activities. Our students chose to design a theme for a new campaign. Feedback from the Patriots marketing team said our students were extremely well prepared and that their logo design was one of the best they have seen. On Friday, May 27th, 43 seniors went to Boston for our class trip. We took a duck tour, we went to the aquarium, we had free time in the North End in Quincy Market, and we ended with a Red Sox game. It was graduation night at Fenway Park, and we received Class of 2022 t-shirts. At the game, we were joined by 16 additional staff and family members. Tuesday, Murdoch hosted a mock crash event in conjunction with the Winchendon Police Department, Fire Department, Stone Ladue Funeral Home, and students from Miss Rondeau's speech and acting class in the dual enrollment program. Mr. King delivered an impact statement. Tuesday night, Murdoch seniors beat the Murdoch juniors in the annual girls flag football game. It was an amazing time, just to say. Today was Murdoch's annual class day. Seniors received their regalia, academic awards, and scholarships. The Murdoch chapter of the National Honor Society was awarded Commended Chapter by the MSSAA for the work we did in the school year 2021 to 2022. And happening right now at 6 p.m., Mo Ketsi is at Westfield State participating in the triple jump event at the All-State Meet. Mo is seeded second in the state.
Oh, my goodness. That's fantastic.
And tomorrow, seniors have their send-off at Memorial and Toy Town in the morning. Promenade is at Murdoch at 6 p.m. The prom will follow immediately at Hidden Hills. Saturday is the graduation party starting at 6 p.m. at Murdoch. Graduation is on Sunday at 2 p.m. Doors will open at 1 for general seating. And lastly, Science MCAS is next week for all freshmen on June 7th and 8th.
Wow, it's pretty, I'm really excited about some of the news that you've got there. It's incredible, especially the trip to Gillette Stadium and the business proposal that they did. That's amazing.
That was news to me, too. It's exciting. I didn't even realize that till I just
Yeah,
read it. So.
that's really cool. And certainly, no, who was it that's at Westfield State competing now?
Moketsi Molai.
Oh, okay, yes. He got quite a few scholarships today, too.
Yes, he did. It was
Yeah,
amazing.
he did. Wow, and he does the triple jump?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Mr. Vine?
No, I want to thank Maria for being the student rep to the school committee this year. We're going to miss your presence, and we'll muddle through the summer, I guess, without a student rep until until the new one comes on board in end of August, beginning of September. But thank you so much. It's been
Thank you
a
all.
joy having you here.
I'm extremely grateful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, congratulations, Maria, on all the success today,
Thank you so much.
and thank you very much. Very good things happening at the end of the year. I love how it leads up to, prom and graduation and all these wonderful things, and then MCAS for the freshmen on Monday.
I know.
Thank you very much for your report.
Thank
Great
you.
information.
Thank you.
Yeah, and certainly we want to wish you the very best at Emmanuel College. I know you'll do yourself proud,
Absolutely.
your family proud, and us here at Winchendon Public Schools, you do us proud. So
Yeah.
congratulations on a great career at Murdoch. Thank
so
you for
much.
serving as our student representative, and we have nothing but best wishes for you.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. Thank you.
Mr.
Right,
Chair,
Mr. Vine?
I just happened to think about this tonight. I know that, that we have minutes and so forth, but unfortunately, I didn't think of this at the beginning of this year. But I think next year, what I'd like to do, starting next year with the student rep, is to have their report printed or submitted in some form so that it can be filed along with our minutes as permanent record.
Yeah, that would be good.
Because I think it's important. Maria's done a fantastic job this year, and it would, again, thinking of it with hindsight, would have been nice years down the road, if necessary, to be able to look back and see what she had given us. So I see Mr. King writing, so if we can think about instituting that procedure, that would be great.
So what you need to do now, Maria, is go home and write up all those things that you did.
Try to remember,
all
yeah.
year long, right?
Yeah.
And submit them and type them up.
Go back through the school calendar.
Yeah,
It could
that's
take
it.
me a long time.
Yeah.
It'll take me more than one night, but I'll work on it.
Oh, you'll make it for graduation. You'll be all right.
Maybe. That's
Yeah.
pushing it. We'll
We'll
see.
be there.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And enjoy the rest of your senior week.
I will.
And be safe.
For sure.
Yep, be safe and take care of each other.
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Okay. The consent agenda, the minutes.
Where are we here?
We're on number
Okay.
7, consent agenda,
Mr.
minutes.
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd move we accept the minutes as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, let's take a vote. Mr. Vine,
Aye.
Mr. Forsythe,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Consent agenda is accepted. Superintendent's report, always our favorite. Yes, we love to hear about COVID and other items.
Great, thank you. A positive COVID report, I suppose, tonight. Positive in the correct way. I'll just give the town statistics real quickly. Winchendon tonight, the most recent numbers, reporting as of this evening, an 8.7% positive test rate in the town of Winchton. And it's remained relatively constant over the past couple of weeks, where it's gone from 8.53, 8.68, and now to 8.7. So it's kind of staying stagnant. And just a little bit, it's very similar to the state rate. The state is currently at a positive rate of 8.44% positive test rate over the last 14 days. The good news with this is right now, across the district, students and staff combined, I think we have one person positive for COVID. So, it's kind of come back down for us, and we're in a good place right now across the district. So that's really all I have for the COVID report this evening. It's good news.
Yes.
Okay, sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
Esther.
Esther, we've got just a quick couple of slides.
I could do it if you want. That's fine.
So we just wanted to give you ESSERS 1 and ESSER 2, sort of the numbers overall to date. We're about to close out ESSER 1, and then we have a little bit more to spend in ESSER 2. So I'm going to let Mr. Mullen kind of go through that with you very quickly.
As of this week, we have taken care of ESSER 1. The amounts are fully expended at this point, and we'll be filing the final paperwork with the state to close that out. ESSER 2 of the $1,053,000, we currently have roughly $300,000 remaining.
Can you,
Yes,
Rob,
sir.
can you just back up for a second?
Of course.
What's are we in the red on ESSER 1 with minus 58,000?
In one point, it is technically, what we just need to do is to transfer funds from one line item to another. But that will zero out,
That will zero out?
yes.
Okay. All right. Sorry to interrupt.
No, not at all. Any questions at all? As I was saying, there was roughly $300,000 remaining in ESSER 2. We have identified uses for those funds to date. We do have until next fall to expend those funds. And we will, of course, continue to keep you updated on those uses.
Rob?
Sorry.
So,
Go ahead, Ryan.
is the additional amount in contractual services already encumbered or otherwise planned for?
I'm sorry, I'm not. That's where most of the funds are. It's not necessarily encumbered. We haven't put any paperwork through to encumber those funds for one use. But as I've said, we've started to identify the uses for those funds. The superintendent, myself, will be sitting down next week to hopefully finalize the uses of that $300,000. But I believe over the next couple of weeks, we should have a plan in place for those funds.
Is your expectation that that would be FY '23 and a little bit of '24? Because I think we have until December of 2024.
For ESSER 2?
Yep.
Correct.
So you'll say some for FY '23, some for FY '24.
Exactly. And so I think ESSER 2 gives us a little bit more flexibility in the way we spend versus ESSER 3 as well. So, in ESSER 3, and we don't have that up here yet. We'll do a separate presentation on that because it's much more detailed in terms of the way we want to spend that money. But one of the things that were required of us for ESSER 3 relative to bid processes, so specifically for some of the bigger projects we want to do, like the chair lift, HVAC at the high school, and so on, they're much more stringent in the way that that was put forth in ESSER 3. So we're looking for some opportunities to maybe do some of our expenditures specifically for the chair lift to bring that back into ESSER 2, just because it's a little easier process to get through for us, and that would free up some money that we currently have planned for ESSER 3 as well. So, we can always take some of the things that we currently have planned for contractual services in ESSER 3 and bring those down to 2 and so on. So we'll spend them, as you would assume, in the order in which they expire. But the ESSER 2 gives us flexibility around sort of those capital expenses that we don't quite have in ESSER 3. So that's one piece that we're going to try to do as we go forward. Also recall that ESSER 1, and I think we have, ESSER 1 is where we spend a lot of money for Toy Town, in our rehab at Toy Town, to bring that HVAC back up online. That was a big piece there. And ESSER 2 was the one that originally we had a tremendous amount of money put aside for special ed transportation that we no longer need. So it was planned to be expended through transportation, which sort of explains having $300,000 left. We didn't need to spend what we had planned. So now we have that money in contractual services that we can spend for professional development and those types of things as well.
Mr. Vine?
Can you go back to the first slide? I'm just out of curiosity, because the numbers seem to fit. The remaining 301,000 left in the ESSER 2, are we eventually at some point simply sliding that over into contractual services, since it looks like we've expended all but about 301,000 of what you had budgeted?
Yeah, that's actually where it is. So when we put in for these grants, we basically put in these categories. So when we apply for the grants, we say to them, we're going to spend this much money in contractual services, and we try to estimate and so on and so forth. However, we have the total award. So what you see up there is that budgeted number that we apply for when we apply for these grants. So exactly what you're saying, Mr. Vine, is we've expended about 291 and we put in for 594. So that's exactly where that 300,000 is. We've spent a little bit over $2,000 over what we said we would spend in supplies and materials, which is okay, so long as we're within 10% of what we stated we would spend. We're good. If we go over that 10%, it's really, we just have to go back and amend the grant. It's not that you get in trouble. We just have to go back and say, we've decided to change the way we're spending the money, and then they approve that, and you continue on.
All right.
That answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
And so we just wanted to show you some of the things that we had spent this on. There were equitable services that we had to spend in ESSER 1, which is a number of private schools where our students attend to see if they needed some things. But ESSER 1 was really primarily, that was right out of the gate, if you will. So it was a lot of the HVAC, transportation, personal protection, which is the PPE, supplies for outdoor activities. I don't know if you recall, we bought all those tents, the canopy tents. We have one for each school. We'll probably see those up here again now that the weather's getting nice and kids are getting outside. That's when we went to remote. So, those are the kind of the big categories that we spent those monies on. I just wanted to be transparent that you see what those are. And we still have some things to do in ESSER 2 that we'll continue to update you, and we have a much larger plan for ESSER 3 that we'll share where we're really spending some money.
And when do you
Anything to add?
No, you're good, thank you.
and when will we hear about ESSER 3?
We should probably be doing that. That might be something we would do at the retreat. As a larger, it's also connected to sort of our turnaround plan, so the district improvement plan. That's the one that's really tied specifically to our district improvement plan. So where you'll see a lot there is on curriculum supplies, professional development training. So, these were really tied to keeping us safe, if you will, relative to COVID. And now ESSER 3 will be where we're tying that into our turnaround plan and trying to close gaps. So it'll be a very different way we're spending the money, actually.
All right, thanks.
You all set, Ryan? Okay. All right, thank you. Our high school principal search.
Let's see. High school principal search. So a quick update. We had, I think it was approximately 12-ish candidates, and I say 12-ish, there were some folks who were not certified in any way that applied for the position. So it reduced us to about 12. We had a committee of parents, faculty, student, and so on that was headed up by Ms. Haru, search committee. They interviewed a few candidates, all that had experience. We really focused on experienced candidates. That committee put forward one candidate to myself, where we then put them through the rounds of the school, and specifically with our students. So we actually had a separate student panel as well, not just the interview panel. So the candidate came back, interviewed, toured the school, interviewed with the students. We talked with the students, likes, dislikes, and so on, and have finally offered the position to MJ Rickson, who is currently holding the position of interim superintendent in, I believe it's North Brookfield, and she is ready to start here as the high school principal on July 1st. She has experience, I believe it's off the top of my head, Pathfinder Vocational, where she was the quote-unquote assistant superintendent, which is also in the vocational schools, the principal of the high school. So she comes to us with a lot of experience as a high school principal and is looking forward to move back to that role as opposed to the one that she's currently holds. So we'll bring her in front of the school committee as soon as she's free and is able to be here on a given night.
Okay. Mr. Vine?
No, that was going to be my question, whether there was any chance we might see her on the 16th, or whether that would be
Absolutely.
too soon.
I don't know if it'll be the 16th. I can certainly reach out. Like I said, she's currently working in an interim superintendent role, so she's trying to close out her school year so she can transition over here. But I will reach out to her. If she's available on the 16th, I'll certainly ask her to come in.
All right, thanks.
My pleasure.
What's her name again?
Mary Jane Rickson.
And she's at North Brookfield now?
North Brookfield, yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ryan, go ahead.
Seems like a wonderfully qualified candidate. Glad that the committee found her to be suitable. Glad that you decided that she was the right fit. Two questions. One is, how did the students react when they met with her? And the other is, one candidate being advanced to the superintendent seems like a small number, an abnormally small number. Is that our practice? Is that out of the ordinary?
Yeah, so I'll take them in order. Students, so it was really important, I think, to our committee and to myself to get a real student feel. So we did have one student on the search committee. Quite frankly, I didn't feel like that was sufficient, so we added and kind of created this small panel of students where it was sort of a two-way street. They were able to ask questions, she was able to ask questions. We gave her a tour of the school, student-led tour, no adult involved, which I think is important. You get to know each other, I think, in an interesting way that way. I went and spoke with each one of the students after those days. Every student was really happy, felt she was very student-supportive, student-centered, friendly, all the things I think you would really want to hear from students. And it differs from, we had freshmen through seniors on that committee. So really positive feedback from our students. It is a little bit, I think, unique to have one individual, but the committee really felt like she was the only one they wanted to afford. They actually really only had the one person they wanted to afford. They weren't happy with the other. They felt that this person outshined the other by a far margin. So that's why they chose to go that way.
And we had 12 candidates?
12 overall candidates, yes, sir.
Kind of again, small number.
Agreed, unique.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I really think because of COVID and whatnot, a lot of people are not putting their hand up.
What's that?
I think because of the experience of COVID, a lot of people are not putting their hand up for administrative positions.
It's not just administrative positions,
Yeah.
it's teaching positions as well. We have a number of positions currently posted. And to your point, we have a couple of administrative postings that we put in the budget this year, and I would have expected some larger numbers, and we're really getting minimal applicants. So you're exactly right, and we're seeing it across the board, and in speaking with other superintendents and some friends that are principals, they're seeing the same things down through the teaching level as well. So I think all those things we hear about and the stress and everything else, is coming to bear in terms of hiring at this point. Yeah.
Any other questions? No? No. Okay, thank you for that report. School safety report.
Sure. I think after the call last week, We had an incident at the high school where I put out a call to the community, and I just felt like it was important to follow up and make sure that it was clear that how we acted and, what we did through these incidents. So we had an incident that, as I put out, it was a threat against the Winchton Public Schools, and I'm going to leave it as vague as that, just to save the details, as we're still investigating and working through some things. But the student, as I put in that call, was removed immediately from the schools and out of the student population. Students were safe at all times. Faculty were safe at all times. I did communicate with faculty after the event. And in terms of going forward, we're reiterating to faculty every day about the importance of making sure, Mr. Murphy, you've worked in schools for years, that, no propping the doors, make sure the empty classrooms don't have windows open, et cetera, et cetera. Working with the Winchton Police as well, and Officer Flagg, we will be doing sort of a risk assessment through all of our schools as we approach the end of the school year. So just as a few examples, looking at the types of windows we have in the vestibules, if you will, as you enter each one of the schools, you kind of are trapped in that vestibule to be buzzed in. So looking at the type of glass we have there, is it safe? Is there anything we can do to upgrade? On some of the doors that open, there's a little door stopper that you can flip down. We've removed those types of things from all doors where we can. So we're going to work with the police to do a safety audit, if you will, throughout the buildings. And as we come to the end of the year and have some money left over in the budget and those types of things, we'll be spending that to make sure that we're as safe as possible at all times. So,
Questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Brian?
Greg has a question.
Oh,
I appreciate the response that you had. And I'm trying to think of the best way to put this. Well, let me put it this way. I would like to know, because I've had parents ask me what happens if there's an active shooter in our schools. And I'm not looking for details, because I don't want to give an active shooter an upper hand, but and I don't even know if you're the only one that could answer this question, because in my mind, the questions that I have are not how would Officer Flagg respond or how the Winchton Police Department would respond. I'd like, for my own comfort and for the comfort of people that I've spoken to at some point, to maybe hear from the chief to know what sorts of situations would trigger a call for more help from, whether it's the state police or surrounding communities, and an idea of what kind of training that our police are getting to handle a situation like this. I mean, I never thought I'd be asking a question like this. But every school is a target. And I'd like,
yeah.
and again, I'm passing on concerns not only that I have, but that other parents have expressed.
And rightfully so. I mean, it's something that is being debated across the country. But my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. King, that we are involved in the ALICE training. And so the police officers and our staff are trained in ALICE. I forgot what the acronym stands for right now.
Right,
but,
I've seen the training.
yeah, and it's very comprehensive. We did it when I was a principal as well. And they do realistic trainings, workshops, whatnot, and they come in and they train right in the schools. So they're familiar with the schools as well, so they would know. It's quite comprehensive, and I'm very comfortable with Alice. But you could comment further, Mr. King?
Sure. I mean, I think there's two things. One thing I want to back up as well is I just want to, and again, I'm not going to bring names in, and I just want to maintain confidentiality. But, in this particular case, so many things hinge on our students being willing to come forward and speak on a topic, right? And in this particular case, and we've had some other things that have happened in the district as well. It's been parents, it's been students. but somebody alerts us. And so, I always commend the students or anybody who's willing to kind of come forward when they see something they don't feel comfortable with. So in this particular situation, we had a student come forward very quickly to one of his or her teachers, and that teacher immediately brought it to administration. So we were able to handle and get this situation controlled very quickly. So I commend, the students and the teacher for that. And I think it's reflective of what Mr. Murphy's talking about. We do ALICE training. That ALICE training became sort of the primary type of training that we have in schools now over the old quote-unquote lockdowns, which is what we used to do, soft lockdown, hard lockdown, used to be the traditional type of safety mechanism for many different things, whether that's an ambulance is called for the schools and we just need to clear the hallways, we want students to stay in their classrooms or so on. It's not just active shooters. They're used for many different reasons. We transitioned to ALICE, and it was reflective, if I'm not mistaken, of a lot of the kind of, sad to say, the research that happened around the Virginia Tech shooting years ago, where they did the traditional lockdown, and there was at least one classroom that sort of did their own ALICE, which was fight back. Right, so Mr. Murphy's correct. We do that in our schools. We do ALICE training. Officer Flag is really effective at it. We do it a little bit different for each grade level in school, of course, the way that we sort of interact with the students and the teachers. But everyone's trained every single year. In terms of how the police are trained, obviously I don't have any insight to that in terms on the explicit police side that has become so prevalent in the recent news. But I can speak that we do the ALICE protocol in district, and our students are trained each and every year, as are our staff.
Yeah, and I understand that. I mean, we've been doing the ALICE training for a bit, and I think it's great, and it's comprehensive, but again, while I may be comfortable with it, I guess just giving the public and parents a little bit of idea of how comprehensive it is, what sorts of scenarios are presented at the training, and again, not giving the reactions or the protocols or strategies that are used to respond to those situations or not. I just think the more, not to scare people, but the more knowledge that people have, the more reassured they're going to be if something happens that our school officials, our school staff, our local law enforcement, and if necessary, mutual aid officers.
In terms of the schools within ALICE, in terms of the way I look at it, is it's a proactive type of reaction. It's communicative. So, the old lockdowns was lock your door, don't answer for anybody, just keep it locked, nobody communicates anywhere. If somebody says I'm the principal on the outside of your door, don't let them in, type of thing, and you just stayed there. The big difference maker is that, in my opinion, in ALICE, is that it is proactive, and we put some decision making into teachers' hands. Just as an example, we would encourage teachers on the first floor, get out the windows. Open your windows and get your kids out of there and run to safety, as a very simple example. The other example, when I talk about communication, historically in a lockdown, there would have been nothing over the intercom system and so on. ALICE we know our buildings better than somebody else, in theory. So we would be communicating, if we know where someone might be in the building, we would actually communicate that over the PA, so that if you know your building and you're a teacher on the opposite end, you have an opportunity to do something and make an intelligent decision to keep yourself and others safe. So it's a proactive approach. In terms of communications to our police department, every classroom, and we test these regularly, I shouldn't laugh, but at the time it seems like, oh gosh, here we go again. So we test our 911 system. So our classrooms dial out to 911, which was a change as a result of some of our current affairs, where classrooms didn't used to be able to dial direct. So now every single classroom can dial out. It goes straight to dispatch with a school and room number, teacher name, the whole 9 yards. And I say when they test it, they go through many classrooms. It also alerts every administrator. Our phones ring incessantly throughout the day, but we're given, obviously, a heads up. So that it's immediately communicated to the police department. We don't have to wait on, oh, did somebody call here? Did somebody call an administrator? As soon as you pick up that phone and dial 911, and that's part of that ALICE training, everyone's alerted, more or less throughout the district, plus dispatch and Officer Flagg herself.
Yeah.
So
I was just going to say, I appreciate that, and I just think the more that people know, especially in light of the problems that they had on the scene in Uvalde, that parents need to be reassured that there aren't going to be those types of problems here.
So so I have I got the acronym, just so, and it kind of, it could be informative for people watching and for parents and whatnot. But the ALICE acronym stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. So, and I think Mr. King pointed out the difference between what we used to do and what they do now with this training is that, they can, instead of just sit there and do nothing, they can get some strategies in how to counter, first of all, evacuate if you can get out. And then they have a meeting place where they will meet somewhere. Obviously, I don't want to say, I don't know where it is anyway, but they would have some kind of a meeting place. And so getting out of there is important. But you can counter. There are strategies that you can use to counter. Obviously, the communication is the inform. Lockdown, if the person, intruder, is in your area, and just, again, alert, keeping everybody in the loop. So alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. And as I said, I got the training when I was a principal, so it's been around for a while, and it really is comprehensive. We have a police officer on campus, and our police station is down the street. They could be up there in 2 minutes or less. Part of the philosophy is to kind of frustrate the intruder for a couple minutes, and that'll give time for the police to arrive and take over. So it's pretty comprehensive. It's used throughout the country, and I think, what's happened in other schools across the country, I don't think you can be 100% sure that it couldn't happen here, but I think we're very well prepared if it does happen.
Can I have one?
Mr. King? Yep.
One last thing, I think to assure, the piece that I know that is in the news right now is that wait time. I think that's the most critical piece that we all read in the news right now is, my goodness, why, if it's, I wasn't there, but we hear repeatedly how many folks were standing outside that school. I know through my conversation with Officer Flagg that she referenced that's a very old protocol and not one that we follow here, where there was an old protocol that said essentially you had to wait till an assembled team of a certain number arrived on scene. And that number could be dictated by department. She said that is a very old protocol, and it's not a protocol that's any longer forward. I don't want to speak for the police department. I believe at this point it's when you get there, get inside. I do know for a fact that we don't follow that type of protocol that seemed to possibly be in place in Uvalde, Texas. Just through a quick conversation with Officer Flagg, I think that is one piece of assurance to families. We're not going to have a situation where we're waiting around on 5 people to show up. We would go in the buildings immediately.
And one last question, if I may, Mr. Chair. With the ALICE training, if there is anybody, who would it be that assesses how effective the training that day has been? Like, what areas it may need work?
It's really hard to assess that. We run, again, depending on the grade level, so we don't scare children and all those types of things. Right. Depending on the older grade levels, we may actually run through drills. We might do a scenario over the intercom and run them through, hey, somebody might be in this hallway, that means this other hallway, get out, use the stairs, and so on. We may not do that with younger children, but we do it with their teachers, so that they understand how to do those things. And do that instead of relying on the students. As we get older, we rely on students to do a little bit more, quite frankly. And when the younger grades, we rely on our adults for that training, I think, more.
I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot or anything. This is just, it's unfortunate that school districts, in the past 2 years, the school committees and administrators and staff have been in the position of being an arm of the public health agencies. And now, unfortunately, school committees and administrators are being recruited as part of the public safety operation. And it's unfortunate that we find ourselves in that position, but.
Agreed, and I think we're very fortunate. We have a very positive relationship with our police department. Officer Flagg is really excellent, and we do have a daily communication for various reasons with our police department, not just with Officer Flagg. So I think a positive is, in our small town, that we do have such a nice relationship. Many of our police officers are alum of our district, actually, and I think that it's very personal to them in this, and they come out for just about anything we ask them for. So I think it's a real benefit for us, that positive communication and respect for our community in a way that maybe you don't have in every town. So I think it's a positive that we can certainly rely on, but it's certainly not the only thing we need to rely on. So I appreciate your concerns.
Thank you, Mr. King.
After all that positivity from Maria.
Yeah.
So let's see if we can get back to something a little more cheerful.
Larry?
Yes, go ahead,
Sorry,
Ryan.
Mr. Chair. Just one request of the superintendent. If you could please inquire, if you need to, with the police department, and for our purposes, report to us the incident command style trainings that the police department in town have undergone relative to the school buildings.
Thank you. You said it more eloquently than I, Ryan. That's one of the things I was hoping for.
We've had a meeting around incident command over the past couple of years. We met as a full community, so police, fire, EMT, and I know they're joined, the town. We have met around what, for schools' perspective, what incident command is, who's in charge when they arrive on scene, and so on and so forth. So that is something that we've done from an administrative standpoint. It is something that we will be reviewing this summer as well with Officer Flagg. We do have a crisis plan manual that we have in each of the schools. It covers all sorts of different things, including fire drills and some of the basics. But part of that would be the incident command, so I love that you brought that up. I was an EMT and just happened to be a part of that, so I was familiar with it all, but it was very informative to our administrators a couple of years ago, but it's time to update as we've turned over a little bit. So that's something Officer Flagg and I have already discussed and will be pursuing over the summer.
That incident command training, emergency management training, and the ALICE protocols as a bundle, I would consider those to be the top 3 things needed to make as safe a preparation as possible for all those awful things that we've been talking about in the last few minutes. Refreshing it is important, especially as you have new folks coming in, right? Doug is new, you're going to have a new principal. That incident command is likely to change based on who's present at exactly that moment. So refreshing it this summer is a great idea, but with those 3 things, I agree with the chair that we are about as prepared as possible for an awful occurrence.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that report. All right, new business number 9. 9A is Murdoch Middle School targeted site visit preliminary findings. Just what the doctor ordered.
Yes.
Good
Yes,
news.
good news on.
Need a little positivity, huh?
I wish we had more people up here and more people out there to
It is what it
Call
is. This is Miss Cassie Millette. She is one of our 7th and 8th grade ELA teachers. More teachers were invited, but most of our staff is actually on a field trip. They're not getting back. Well, they just hit a parade
In Baldwinville, so
in
they.
Baldwinville.
Yeah.
So they're not getting back until after 7 o'clock tonight. So
Whitewater trip?
yeah, whitewater rafting.
Yeah.
The 8th grade went today, so most of our staff is there. Actually, most of our instructional leadership team is also there tonight, so they'll be a little tired tomorrow. So what we're going to go over tonight is our initial findings from our targeted site visit. Next slide. So just a little bit of history about why we have to have the targeted site visit. I know that some of you have been with us for the 5 years that we've been involved with this, but just a little bit of history. Over the 4-year span from 2014 to 2017, the middle school remained a level 3 accountability rating with the state. So in 2016, in the winter, I remember it well, it was December 2016, the middle school was identified with 4 other middle schools and elementary schools in central Massachusetts. And we were chosen to participate in a level 3 turnaround process that was developed by Massachusetts. So we were one of the first cohorts that were put into this process. So we started in 2017, and throughout the last 4 years, we worked with the American Institute of Research, and they came in, did classroom observations. They did a principal survey, questionnaire, staff survey. They did classroom observations every year except, of course, 1920. All of the data that we received from AIR and other data sources, we created 1-year turnaround plans that were sent off to the Department of Education. Ms. Millette has been there since day one, so I'm glad that she was able to come tonight to be able to talk about those areas, any questions that you might have about that process. This year, what we decided to do coming out of the pandemic was Toy Town and the middle school, we decided to change vendors. There are 2 vendors that do this process, American Institute for Research and then SchoolWorks. We wanted to kind of get that baseline data coming off the pandemic. You know, it's kind of that fresh start, looking at where we've come from and where we currently are. So they are the ones that we've used to do this next turnaround site visit. And for us, like I said, this is year 5 for us. So SchoolWorks and Instill, that stands for the Institute for Strategic Leadership and Learning. I did give you a handout just in case you wanted to learn more about SchoolWorks and Instill. Instill actually created or co-created the turnaround practices with the state of Massachusetts. So a lot of those things that you're going to hear tonight still go with those 4 turnaround practices. We had 3 site members that came. We had 2 from Instill and 1 from SchoolWorks. They came Monday, May 16th, and day 1 really focused on focus groups, meetings with myself, with the Dean of Students, focus groups with the teachers, and also with students. They also conducted classroom visits where they were able to go to all of our core classes. The second day is when we met with, our ILT met with 2 of the members that conducted the site visit and the focus groups. And what we had to do was determine priority areas where we wanted to focus for this next year. We are still considered what the state would consider requiring assistance, focused, targeted support, because we still have the same accountability classification from 2019. So that is why we are still in the process of turnaround. Next. I don't like to read off slides, but I'm going to read this one. This was, and I'm glad Dr. Landman was able to be at our meeting on May 17th when they went over the results, and he was able to get exactly the quotes that were said. And this is how it was started out by one of the members from Instill. He quotes, "This is a unicorn. We don't see what you've done here often in our work. It is impressive to see what you've done here. You are organized and implementing at a much higher level. The goal is for this to translate to student achievement. This may not be the year we see the learning outcomes, but from my perspective, you are on the right track. You have the systems in place to shift to student-directed learning. Summit helps to make it coherent for your students. When we hear students telling us that they set SMART goals for themselves and then tell us what their goals are, this is next level. You've done something that many, many schools haven't figured out how to do. This is a school to study." Just let that sit in.
You have to, Mr. Chair, if I can.
Go ahead, Greg.
You have to smile because when you think of the minor earthquake that was created when we switched to Summit, and the concern, and rightfully so, the concerns that parents have with the switch and the questions that committee members had, and I think it was such a good idea to let you go ahead and frankly stick with it for a few years to see how this was going to turn out. And I think that I can speak for all the people that were on the committee at that time, that and myself certainly had faith in you and your staff that you'd be able to carry this off. And this, I think, just sort of strengthens that or vindicates that belief, if you will.
It does. Next.
Sure.
You're animated, sorry. So some of the strengths that came out of their findings, the adoption of Summit Learning Approach has provided a powerful engine for change and improvement. The second one, emphasis on building positive relationships through the mentoring program. And then thirdly, climate of respectful, collegial, and caring teams and staff focused on building student relationships and increasing academic achievement. So those were the three strengths that they pulled out from all of the findings. And what I'd just like to say too is this could not have been done without the team approach. I really feel that it was, even if it wasn't Summit, we were able to create an instructional leadership team, a team of teachers that really bonded together, had a shift in their mindset, and where we were able to build those systems for improvement. Because without those systems in place, none of this would be possible for where we are today. So going into that,
I do think Jess is being modest too. A lot of that starts from the top. And she demonstrated that team, approach right from the beginning. So I think you need to, you need to know that too.
It's hard. So let's go into the findings. So like I had said before, one of the members from Instill, Mr. Lane, he created, co-developed the turnaround practices with the Department of Education. So these are the same turnaround practices that you've been hearing for the last 4.5 years. So the first one, and these are the preliminary findings. These are not going to change. What we will receive is a much more detailed report of all of these together. I should have the draft next week, and then hopefully I can get you the final copy before school is out. So I'm just waiting on that from them. So the first one, that the schools establish a clear system of structures and teaming practices. So that's what I was just talking about. Before we can really have the other pieces of student achievement come into place, we need to have those structures and that teaming practices set up. The next one was that the leaders and teachers are effectively monitoring and modifying key improvement strategies as needed to continue to implement and sustain their work. One of the examples that was given to us that they were impressed with was we had to change our schedule fourth quarter. And it was a couple of minor changes, but that we were willing and that the teachers were willing to go ahead and make a couple of changes to best suit what we needed for our students for this fourth quarter. Turnaround practice 2, this is the instructional practices for improving instruction. These were their findings. So the first one, where the leadership has established and teachers are collaboratively working together to implement high-quality instructional strategies, practices, and routines. So what we've really worked hard on is identifying what those high-quality strategies are, what are evidence-based practices, what is the research behind what we're doing, and how are we implementing them, and monitoring each step of the way, and then fixing it if it's not working. So the second one, we have formal and informal processes to monitor classroom instruction, but has not yet developed systems to provide ongoing feedback and coaching to all students. This is actually one that I know that we brought up in our meeting with the visiting team, because that's something that I felt that we still need to work on. Right before COVID, we had just gone through a full coaching cycle. Ms. Millette, Mr. Herrick, Ms. Osgood, they've all been trained in coaching models, and they were leading coaching cycle. We were not able to go into our second coaching cycle because we were not in school. It's very hard to do coaching and doing peer observations and feedback remotely. So that's something that we've really been looking to get back into. And I feel for myself personally, that's always something I like to be in the classrooms. But as a principal, you are also meant to be an instructional leader. So being in the classrooms, giving feedback to the staff. But I think that it's really meaningful and powerful when it comes from each other. And they've become much more comfortable with each other to be able to do that. Go and see each other teach, give each other feedback. So that's something that we're really proud of, too. Mm-hmm. The last one, that leaders and teachers have highly organized systems for collecting, analyzing student data, informing goal setting, mentoring, lesson planning, instruction. If you know me well, I do like the data. I like to color code. Ms. Millette is very much the same mindset. But without knowing where your students are at and what they need and where we need to get them, we're not going to be successful. So making sure that we have those systems in place and know how to analyze that information, that's where it gets us to go into goal setting, having that mentoring time with students, being able to take a lesson plan and change it, on the fly. One example of a classroom observation that they brought up was one of our teachers noticed on her, first assignment, we call them our do nows, the students were understanding it. And even though there were observers in her classroom, she knew she needed to change what she had planned for that day. So she was very nervous after the classroom observation that, oh my goodness, I had to change everything. And actually it's a positive because she didn't continue on knowing that the students weren't ready for it. So that was a positive. The third turnaround practice, this is where we're really looking at providing students specific supports, and that's for all students. So what they found was that leaders, teachers, and students use content and competency assessments to identify areas for improvement and related supports. So not only are we looking at the content and our focus areas, but you hear us talk a lot about cognitive skills and assessing whether or not they have those skills to be able to implement them and apply them in different subject areas across the content areas. The second one was that the school has a deliberate and flexible approach to providing tiered academic and non-academic interventions. So really what that's saying is that we have the systems in place to be able to provide all students with their tier 1. That's what we're calling our core instruction. But then students that need that additional help, that additional support, we have other supports in place that we can provide those interventions for students. And it's not only just academic, but it's also socially, emotionally, behaviorally, so that all of those things are in place for those students. So the next one, and one that I feel is probably one of the most important to be able to do all the others, is your school culture and climate. So the first finding that they had for us is that we have shared expectations for student conduct. We have that teacher and student interactions where there's positive learning environments for our kids and for our teachers. So one of the things that they really loved was mentoring, and how our teachers are able to build those relationships with our students, and not just with understanding, you know, what's going on in school, but they know them personally, and they know things about their life, and that they're able to make those connections with their students. For our shared expectations, we have classroom expectations, school-wide expectations for behavior, and also for staff. The second, again, those were our more of our systems and our teaming structures, where we're trying to make sure that our students become independent and responsible learners. Again, with the positive relationships. Our goal in middle school is to prepare our students not only for high school, but for the real world. And kids will always say, why do I need this? Why do I need to learn this? And we try each day to make sure that they understand that these are skills that we're also trying to teach them that can go across many different areas. And the last one is that we've established a climate of respectful collegial relationships, which has led to a positive school culture focused on the collective effort to increase student achievement. I think this one got me, because we really are a team. And as corny as it sounds, and I say that all the time, I feel like we're a family of staff. I know them, they know me, my door's always open, their doors are always open to each other, and that people want to come to work. And I think the kids feel that, the kids see that, and they want to come to school, because they feed off of us. So that's something that we've worked really hard from our AIR data. Mm-hmm. 1 year was trusting relationships we felt was too low, and that's something that we've tried to build over the last couple of years. And I think we can feel it, and you can feel it when you walk in the building. So the next part is the classroom visit data. So again, a lot of this information comes from the focus groups. I did an interview with them before they came. They've looked at everything that we have, our sustainability plan, our handbook. I think every document that we have in place, I gave it to them. So this is another quote on the next slide. Dr. Randall said, "I have never been in a school that had zeros in the ineffective column." I didn't believe it. I really didn't believe it. What do you mean you've never had a school that had zeros in the ineffective column? So if you look on the next slide, what you'll see is we did not have any ineffective classrooms. And they have literally never seen that before on their visits. They even called their boss and said, "What do you want us to do with this school? Because we've never seen this before." That was a proud moment. I think if you click through, you'll see in some of these areas, there's two more, we were 100% in these areas, mostly effective or effective. So this is really where we're looking at our Common Core implementation, our classroom climate. On the next slide, you'll see there's a couple more areas where we're looking at purposeful teaching and then assessment and feedback. One thing that I want to note on 8, 9, and 10 is that they found that these are the 3 areas that are the most difficult to observe in their classroom visits. But again, when they came into our classrooms, they didn't see any ineffective practices. A lot of times feedback will happen, when we're doing correcting or, the assessment strategies. You may not see that in a 20-minute observation. But again, from what they saw, it was effective instructional practices. On the next slide, I think this is the last quote, but I think it's powerful that something special is happening here. I agree. I think the teachers and the staff have put in an enormous amount of work and many hours of training and professional development and planning and curriculum work, that they're seeing the fruits of their labor. So there's still things that we need to work on. We're not done yet. So again, after they contacted their boss and said, what do we do? It was a very different atmosphere than they've had before, working with us to pick priority areas. So what we actually did was we chose 2 different areas. And based on the feedback, we wanted to work on and build our receiving feedback on a regular basis, whether that's from me or whether that's from our coaches. And then the second one was to take the system of tiered interventions, implementation assessment, and formalize it, make it better. So that's what we did. On the next piece, what we really wanted to make sure is that our fidelity of implementation is similar across the board. So it's there, we just want to make it better. Okay. So lastly, these are the 2 action plans that we created that will go into our sustainability improvement planning. The first one is where we're really trying to formalize our system of interventions and making sure that we are tracking those interventions that are happening. We have the assessments in place, we have the interventions in place. We just want to do a better job of tracking them and making sure that we are going through a process, a cycle of progress monitoring. So that's our first one. Most of those things are actually already taken care of, are already done and ready to be rolled out this fall. The second one is where we're really wanting our coaches to have more coaching cycles. And to be able to do that, I need to be able to provide them time and a schedule and calendar and some flexibility where they can go into classrooms, provide feedback, and go through that coaching cycle that they know so well. And then lastly, again, these are the couple of things that we need to focus on. We're going to be doing both our sustainability improvement planning. We're still going to continue doing it at the school level, but we also need to do it at the district level for the state. All of our action plans will then be incorporated into our improvement planning, and then we're going to focus specifically on some priority areas. It doesn't necessarily now have to be each turnaround practice. We can look at it based on what we got from the targeted site visit. And that's what I have for you tonight.
Mr. Vine?
There isn't a whole lot to say other than I think it's fantastic. I mean, nothing is perfect. You pointed out the areas where you're looking for improvement, but I don't know how you could ask for a better report than what you've received, and not just good that you've gotten a good report. I mean, that's fantastic, but more so for your team to get this kind of feedback, because it just provides that extra motivation to keep going with something like this. One of the things that stood out to me in one of your assessment grids was the grades that you got for participation and engagement. And I'm not a professional educator, but it would seem to me that has got to be one of the keys to success for your students, for any students, if they're not participating, if they're not engaged with the instructor, with the paras, with the subject matter, you know, they may get by, they may do enough to pass, but they're not, and again, my amateur assessment, they're not really learning. So I was thrilled to see the great grades that you got for that.
Especially middle schoolers.
Yeah, exactly. And when you consider the age group, absolutely. And I see 2 middle schoolers just about every day, and I know how they can be.
They're great kids, though. Come on.
But I just think it's fantastic. Keep up the good work. The only question that I had was, you've got a great team working on this. How difficult is it if there's a change in a team member, if a member of the team has left and you've got a new teacher coming in, how difficult is it to acclimate them to your system?
Well, I think it goes back to those structures we've created. So where we teach in teams, you have 4 other people on your teaching team there to support you. So I feel like that's been a really huge resource for these new teachers coming in, to have 4 people with the same prep time. You know, we have the mentoring program for teachers and for students, and just there's a lot of support set up, and that goes back to those structures where they're set up to support those new teachers, because there's always going to be new teachers due to retirement, so we had to kind of think back of how can we support anybody that's going to come into this role.
Okay, thank you.
That's actually really good leeway. So yes, we are going to toot our own horn tonight, just a little bit, if that's okay with Mr. King. I think it's okay. So actually, we have some exciting news. Ms. Millette and I decided on a whim that we were going to apply to become Summit Learning Fellows. And what that means is that we actually conduct the training. So we actually got chosen. So this is nationwide. So the 2 of us are going to be going to Denver, Colorado, the end of June, to be trained as the fellows. And then for a week in July, we will be going and training new staff members, new district leaders, new school leaders on Summit, on those instructional practices, those setting up those systems. So that's really exciting for us. And then also for our new staff, any of our new staff members, they go to those initial trainings. And that's kind of what I meant when I said too, with spending the amount of hours that they do. They spend a week of their summer doing those trainings. So we will have, I think, 4 staff members that did not get the initial training. It's not that they're brand new. It's because of COVID. They did not get to go through that full initial training, so they're going to get it this year, this summer. So we're excited. We get to go and train others on all of the things that we've learned and have been able to implement.
Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
being selected as the fellows. That's wonderful. And congratulations on a fantastic report. This is a testament, an outside, objective, critical assessment of what your school has done, and it is obvious that it is glowing. With the review, obviously there was review of observations of classrooms, probably your schedules, your master schedule, your teaching assignments, your team teachers, all of that.
Everything, yeah. Our handbooks, our sustainability plans, evaluations that I have written, redacted, of course, any of our student support protocols and procedures, they literally looked at everything.
I mean, that really does reflect a comprehensive review, and to have such objective positivity come out from the report, that's commendable. How does the results of this align with student outcomes? How have student outcomes changed over the same period or not? And what do we think the effects of these changes will be on student outcomes in the future?
So that's the test, right? That's the test. Unfortunately, a lot of it comes down to MCAS. For me personally, and I think I've said this to all of you, I look also at how our high school students are doing and how successful they are. And we've seen over the last few years the MCAS scores for our school, at least what we have seen before COVID, we were making big progress, huge progress. What we see from our school-wide data, and I believe that we'll present that to you at a later date, we've seen growth from 6th grade to 8th grade. I think it's something that we're working on as a system to be able to then provide that adequate and high-quality instruction coming up from kindergarten. So really making sure that there's a through line K through 12, and I think Mr. King has done a fabulous job of getting our team of administrators and then us getting our team of teachers on that same page of there needs to be a consistency across the district to be able to see those outcomes as students rise in grade levels.
Why the change from AIR to SchoolWorks? And was that a unilateral decision? Did the school district get to make that decision?
So actually it was Ms. Diaz and myself. We used AIR to begin with because many years ago we had this grant called, it was the SISUP grant. It was about SISUP. Don't ask me the name of it. All I remember is it's SISEP. So it's implementation science. When we had that grant, we implemented PBIS. So I think some of you might have remembered many of our presentations. We did PBIS. They came in, American Institute for Research, and they were the ones that came and looked at how we were implementing PBIS and reported back. So when we started this whole process, AIR was the one that most schools were going with. We already knew how they worked, we understood their process, so we've stuck with them. We also wanted to see, we didn't want to change in the middle of everything. We wanted to see growth with the same vendor. I will say that we did not feel that we got enough out of them out of the last 2 years where we knew where we needed to make progress. We just needed help to get there and how. We didn't feel that we really got that from them. So Mrs. Diaz and myself, along with Mr. King, we decided that we're coming out of COVID. We need a baseline. Let's start, from scratch. I think this group was much more comprehensive than AIR, especially being able to have the focus groups with the teachers, with the students. Like, that was huge. And really then looking at all of our documentation that had not been done before.
And the DESE basically supports both?
Both, yep.
Great.
Okay. Well, I've already spoken with Jess and congratulated her on the great news that we got. And it certainly paid off to support a new idea. We didn't know if it was going to work or not, as Ms. Devine pointed out. We just knew that what we were doing wasn't working. And so I have so much respect for you, Jess, as the leader of the pack, but also for your staff who really embraced the fact that this ain't working. We got to try something new. And they were willing to do the training, and they were willing to put the hours in, and they were willing to, take 2 steps forward and 1 back. I remember when you first started, there was some growing pains, and there was some complaints and whatnot, but you stayed the course as a team, as a family. You stayed the course, and as Greg pointed out, the people that were on the school committee at the time backed you and supported you through those difficult times, and it paid off. I mean, it really did pay off. And hopefully, it'll continue to show progress
Yep.
as you guys get better. And then I wanted to congratulate the two of you on being fellows.
Fellows.
Yeah, that didn't come out right, did it?
Hello. No, and we thank you very much, because I know that you took a lot of heat, and you were very supportive and backed us right from the beginning. So we really appreciate the support, and needed it along the way. So thank you.
Yeah, well, we did wipe away a few tears as
Just a few.
things went on.
Yeah.
But, so it just, this is a great example of how you move things forward. You have to be bold, you have to take risks, and you have to try things. And some of them you have to accept are not gonna work. And so you go back to the drawing board and you try again. And that's exactly what you and your staff have done. I will be interested to see data on how the kids are doing at the high school level. That would be interesting to take a peek at. So in one of your presentations, or maybe Doug and Ms. Rickson, when she gets on board, maybe that's something that they can let us know, to see how the kids that went through the summit program in the middle school, how they're doing at the high school. Because I know it was atrocious before that. The kids were not doing well. The transition to high school was not I remember sitting in Mr. King's office looking at some of that data, and it was not pretty. That was your first year as principal.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder.
Yeah.
Well, this
I thought you were gonna go back to Lowell after looking at those.
You didn't share that
that
stuff
data.
with me during the interview process.
Yeah, that's right.
this senior class is our first year, is our year one that are graduating.
Yeah.
Yep. So they're a very special class.
So, again, congratulations.
Thank you.
And keep moving forward. Don't be afraid to take risks.
Yep.
We've got your back. And, you know, we see great things coming. It's too bad it's a little late in the game, but I would have loved to have you at our Massachusetts School Administrators Association Summer Institute. It's too late this year, but maybe next year you could present there. They have a large middle school contingent that attends. You should be attending too, by the way.
We have something in the works, no worries.
I've been bugging Mr. King forever to send a group there, and, but you should be presenting there, because this is great news. And I know that the middle school is one of the most difficult groups of students to move forward. I was a middle school principal for 9 years, and it was difficult to move things forward just because of who they are at that age, you know.
They're fun.
They're really.
They are fun. Yeah, and it's a funny thing that I learned to really love them after coming from the high school. I couldn't stand them when I was a high school administrator. And then I got to middle school and I learned to love them. Then I couldn't stand the high school kids.
Yes, yeah.
So then I went back to the high school. So anyway, I admire the work that you guys have done. Congratulations. And keep coming back with good news like that. And good luck this summer at your fellows training. That's great.
It'll be a lot of work, but it's exciting.
Yeah, Denver's a nice place to visit in the summer.
We won't be able to really go anywhere, because it will be training from like 7 to 4, so.
Yeah.
It's Denver, then New Orleans, so the second leg.
In July.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jess. Thank you, Cassie.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
could I just ask, probably the superintendent, for just contextual purposes, what similar experiences will other schools or will other schools in the district have? Are they going through the same process? Is that coming up?
It's a great question. So the two schools that currently participate are the middle school and Toy Town. So Toy Town just had their visit within the last couple of days as well. So they go through the exact same process. Those are the only two schools currently that are in that particular process. So when we present those turnaround plans at the beginning of the year, that type of thing, the district improvement plans, those are driven off of those two schools, and we sort of, this year try to do a K-12 kind of through line, as Ms. Vazina mentioned. So the high school doesn't go through this process, nor does Memorial, who doesn't take actually the MCAS test. None of the grades there do, so they don't actually qualify in any way. So we should see some results from Toy Town soon.
But hopefully, I think, if I may, I didn't want to cut you off. Oh. Hopefully, some of the best practices and some of the things in those categories for the turnaround, hopefully those can be a guiding principles for the schools that aren't involved in the program, and they could learn from what you guys are doing, because I think those are universal. I don't think those are anything specific to middle school or grades 3 to 5. I think those kinds of things can be adapted to any level.
I think the things that
types of things are doing.
Ms. Vazina mentioned tonight are the things that we're trying to do district-wide and implement
Yeah.
K-12. Absolutely. They're
Yeah.
best practice, and we need to be doing those everywhere. And so one of the things we're trying to do in our implementations to turn this district around in general is implement those practices across the board, like you say, not just 3 through 8.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to hear you say that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Well, and I think that the middle school should be commended, and speaking from personal experience, you put a lot of effort, blood, sweat, and tears into building a plan that you believe in, and I know that that's what that team's done, and it's really difficult when you get through that first year and you don't get the results that you really wish for, because of all the effort that you put in, and I know what it takes personally to remain committed to that plan because you believe in it. But to have the only way to push that forward is to have that culture where the entire building believes in the plan. And so I think that speaks to the culture that you've created in that building and the team that you have so that you can be persistent. It takes at least 3 years to get the results that you're looking for. And you need the support that you've received here, and you need the staff that believe in that. And you've certainly had that. And so I haven't been along for the full ride, but I'm really proud of what you've done. And I know how that feels. So congratulations to you and your entire team.
okay. So we're going to move to number 9B,
Another good news.
the Robinson Broadhurst Foundation FY23 funds receipt. And we need a vote for that, but go ahead.
You do. So we applied to Robinson Broadhurst, as we do each year, for funds. Primarily this year, Robinson Broadhurst, and we presented this during the budget. Primarily, it's our Chromebook, one-to-one Chromebook plan is the primary purpose of the grant, how we utilize it, I should say. We have a few other things in there. We also support a little bit of the Memorial School as well in there for some different things, some software and various things that we applied for this year. We applied for $190,000 to Robinson Broadhurst. They awarded us with $180,000 this year as a check. I think the letter is in your packet, the award letter.
Yep.
And as regulation requires, the school committee must accept any funds such as this before we can deposit those. So we're very grateful to Robinson Broadhurst and their ongoing support. We've had a really positive meeting with them prior to receiving the funds and about how we're going to spend those and what we see going forward. So I believe you all have the letters.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion, but first I want to ask Mr. King that it says in the letter that they enclosed a check in the sum of $180,000. Next time, could you at least make a copy and attach it to the letter? Because I'd love to see what one of those looks like.
Swing by the office, Mr. Bryant. I'll show you the real one. But absolutely, we can do that in the future. Happy to do it.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I move to approve and accept the funds from the Robinson Broadhurst Foundation.
Okay, do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
All right. We'll take a vote. Ryan?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, and we have voted to accept $180,000 in the retirement, Mr. Murphy Retirement Fund.
You'll have to talk to Mr. Mullen.
All right, that's good. Boy, a lot of good news tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm loving this meeting. Okay, So, under old business, in the packet, the superintendent mid-year formative assessment review, I know that, and by the way, I want to thank Liz for putting together all these documents for us each meeting. She does a really nice job, and I do enjoy the way that she does her minutes. So when I see her, I'll tell her, but I think the public should know that Liz Latoria is doing a really wonderful job supporting the superintendent and supporting us, and ultimately the district and the students. She's doing a great job.
And
Thank you.
congratulations to Liz, who has a child graduating this
Yes,
weekend.
that's right,
She does, tomorrow night.
tomorrow night. So, there is a form in there, and we had talked about, because Mr. King was hired in the middle of the year as the permanent superintendent, it would be difficult to, and maybe a little unfair for us to do an evaluation. Our liaison to the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, Tracy Novak, suggested that we do a formative assessment instead of a summative. The difference being a formative is more feedback to the superintendent, where the summative being the evaluation. So Liz did hunt down a form that recommended by the state, by DESE, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And it's not exactly the form that we've used in the past, but it's pretty close. So I think at our June 16th meeting, when everybody will be here, you know, we can get the exact form that we've used in the past, and we're gonna have to change our timeline a little bit for people completing it. And we're also voting on a chair that night, and whoever the chair is will then take the results and do a composite that will be presented to Mr. King. And so hopefully we can get that done soon. So, but anyway, this will give you an idea of the categories and the things that a superintendent, expectations for a superintendent in Massachusetts. So you can take that with you and get an idea of what the form. Then I'll work with Mr. King and Liz to get the exact form that we've used in the past. It's very similar to this. We got it, I think we modified it a little bit when we used it for Joan Landers and when we used it for Steve Haddad before that. Okay. So,
Mr. Chair,
yes,
I think that all sounds fantastic. Formative assessment, absolutely perfect. And I'm wondering on the timeline that you just described, if the superintendent would do a progress report. Would you expect him to produce a progress report in preparation for the formative assessment?
well, that's the way it usually works, is that Mr. King would provide us his goals and just a brief synopsis of, you know, what the goal is, what kind of progress is being made on those goals, evidence that, you know, things are moving forward, those kinds of things. But most of it, Dr. Forsythe, is our experience, what we see and what we hear, and what we observe, and then areas, because we may get feedback from our constituents that Mr. King doesn't get, or our own experiences and what we have. You have children in the system. I have grandnieces and nephews, and Greg has grandchildren. So you have some unique experiences that you can relate to as well. I think, I'm not too worried about it. I think Mr. King's going to get a pretty good report. I don't know if it'll be as good as Jess's, but it's,
Not likely.
it'll be a good report. I'm sure it'll be a good report. So if you could do that for us for the 16th, just outline what your goals, some feedback to us about the progress that you're making on those goals. We know that they're probably 2-year goals, I would imagine, because you just got the job, so, and help us with that. Okay?
Will do, absolutely. I'm
All right,
adding to
thank
the
you.
list now.
All right, what else have we got? Anything fun? We've had a good night.
Just the future agenda items.
Yep. Future agenda items, number 11. Well, data presentations, we know that at some point in time, we'll hear from Toy Town, right? On their progress?
Correct.
Okay. So I know that's one of them. MCAS, we won't get to the fall, so we won't have
Correct.
to worry
Late
about
summer,
that.
but more likely fall.
If there's any of the end of the year kind of things that you want to present, you know, how the school year went academically, socially, all those kinds of things, that would be good. Murdoch Trust breakdown, probably do that, as it says there in the summer. That one can hold off. Anything else? Dr. Forsythe, you got something, or?
Mr. King, perhaps you know when Ms. Rickson is going to be starting? Will she be starting soon, or is that a couple weeks, couple months out? July 1st?
Officially, it's July 1, correct.
Okay, so not for this meeting, some future meeting. Be nice to meet her.
Yes, I'll try to see her availability for maybe the 16th, but if not, it would be into July.
Yep, good.
Yeah, I don't know if you probably already thought of this, but just be nice to have a meet and greet for her, so that parents and everybody can get a chance to meet her and put a name to a face and stuff.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Anything else on the future items? All right, hearing none. School committee closing comments. We'll start with Dr. Forsythe tonight.
Congratulations to Murdoch Middle School and the teachers and the staff on a absolutely glowing DESE and School Works report. Absolutely, we heard tonight, a fantastic, thorough undertaking that really reflects the power of change within a school. So kudos and well done. Congratulations to the Murdoch seniors who are about to graduate and go on to the next stage of their lives. No matter what that stage is, it's an exciting time. Congratulations. And thank you to Maria, our student rep, who has been with us all year and has done a great job. Really, really, really great. And last but not least, as the school year comes to an end, congratulations and thank you to all of the teachers, all of the staff, the librarians and custodians for a fantastic year, another fantastic year. Well done, and here comes a deserved break.
Thank you, Ryan. Mr. Vine?
Ryan took all mine. No, but, yeah, right, what he said.
Ditto.
No, congratulations to the class of 2022. Congratulations to the folks at the middle school you didn't get a report, you earned a good report. A lot of hard work went into that, so thank you for that. And again, thanks to Maria. And I won't go on and on about this, but I just want to say that it burns me up as I look back on the past 2 years when COVID first started and the school committee was put in a position to react, and now school districts and school committees are being put in a position to react for yet another failure of effective leadership at especially the national level. I hope that as a result of these last 3 mass shootings, Buffalo, Uvalde, and Tulsa, they'll finally decide that now is the time to do something, because we can protect our schools to some extent, but we don't want our children going to schools in what amounts to a Fort Knox. We don't want to board up all the windows and have them in buildings surrounded by razor wire. I hope that something will be done. I won't go into specifics on what I think that is, but let's pray they do something in Washington this time. Thank you.
Good. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Greg. And I'll just, I've said all my thank yous and congratulations and stuff. I do want to commend Mr. King and Mr. Sachoka and Ms. Rondo for the wonderful presentation today at Class Day. I thought it was very well done. Lots of scholarships. What was it, over $70,000 in scholarships today?
That's correct.
Yeah, so a lot of money was given out, and well-deserving students. I was proud of the students. And the one thing that I did want to mention is that one of the great things that's done at Class Day that I don't see at other schools is how the students honor their teachers. For those of you that weren't able to make it today to Class Day, the kids have flowers, and they are instructed to give it to a staff member who's made a difference in their lives. And it was amazing to see the diversity of the flowers being handed out. There are many staff that received flowers, some multiple. So it was great to see. I really enjoyed Class Day today, and I'm sure I'm going to enjoy graduation on Sunday. It'll be great. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, Mr. Devine,
Aye.
Dr. Forsythe,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye at 7:41. We are adjourned.